Okay, we've come to chapter 9 today. So, Nityadam, Material Science and Civilization. Um, I hope that you remember all the other chapters reasonably clearly. You know, the first chapter, Sannyasi Thakur arrives with Premdas Babaji. And then Sannyasi Thakur, he asks beautiful question in that first chapter. If Dharma is one, how come there are so many different opinions on it? He answers this question. And then in the second chapter, he says, if the jiva is infinitesimal, how can he be pure? How can he be, if he's temporary, how can he be transcendental? He asked this question at the beginning of chapter 2. And then in chapter 3, Mahashai, Lahari Mahashai, is asking the question about caste Brahmana and the Sandhya Vandana prayers. And it's Vaishnava Das Babaji who answers those questions. And then in the fourth chapter, he, in the third chapter, it's Naimitic Dharma must be relinquished. Then in the fourth chapter, there's beautiful teachings by Vaishnava Das to Lahari Mahashai. And Lahari Mahashai becomes completely um, understanding what is Shuddha Vaishnavism. And then in chapter 5, um, we have the pastime of Lahari Mahashai's sons, Deva, what's his name? Devadatta. What's his name now? Devidas. Devidas comes and they speak with their father. He speaks with the father, try to bring him home. So Lahari now is preaching. First of all, Premdas Babaji was preaching in the first chapter. In the third chapter, Vaishnava Das is preaching. In the fifth chapter, now Lahari Mahashai is preaching. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is weaving an incredible narrative through these chapters, all connecting with Nitya Dharma, Nitya Prem. And then in the sixth chapter, most beautiful conversation between the Pandits, Chandidas, etc. These different, not Chandidas, um, Chudamani, these Brahman Pandits have all come to argue with the Vaishnavas. And there's beautiful discussion where they try to defeat the Vaishnavas, but Vaishnav Das Babaji again defeats them completely with his wonderful erudition of what is true Siddhanta. The smartas basically are purified in that sixth chapter, very powerful chapter. Chapter 7 is Chandidas and Damayanti, listening to Anantadas, that beautiful narration. And chapter 8, we've just finished, is Vaishnava etiquette. They've approached Haridas Babaji, and Nityananda has been asking those beautiful questions about Vaishnava behavior and etiquette. So this is the history so far we've come. Now we come to chapter 9. Lahari Mahashai lived in the association of Vaishnavas in Sri Godrum for 3 or 4 years, and thus his heart became fully pure. It takes time to purify the heart. It's not going to happen overnight. If we're suffering from some type of disease, we're not going to be cured in a day. It'll take some time, some months, sometimes even some years to be purified of our disease. So Lahari Mahashai, for 3 or 4 years, thus his heart became fully pure. At all times he chanted Harinam, while eating, walking, and sitting, before sleeping and after rising. This is the life of a dedicated mendicant, a dedicated Vaishnava, who has realized the absolute necessity of the opportunity now to pick up this truth, and there's no time to waste. So all his time, walking, eating, sleeping, waking, rising, were involved with chanting. He wore simple cloths and did not even use shoes or sandals. Why? This is to reduce any material activities. The more simple our lifestyles, the less we have to arrange to carry on our material activities. If we complicate our lives with so many material acquisitions, then it takes up so much of our time. But if we live simple living and high thinking, this is what Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada coined this expression. So Lahari Mahashaya is definitely like this. He had relinquished his pride in his caste so completely that as soon as he saw a Vaishnava, he would offer him Dandavat pranams and forcibly take the dust from his feet. This is a huge thing for a caste Brahmana to be offering Dandavat pranams to someone who may not be a Brahmana. They may be a Vaishya or even a Shudra, but still, as a Vaishnava now, he's seeing all the Vaishnavas as praiseworthy. He's not distinguishing between Brahman or any caste within himself. This is a huge thing. We don't understand in the Western world what it means to be born in a Brahmin family. We had our beloved Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj described to us. He came from a completely Paka Brahmin family. And when he first came to the mutt, he was horrified that he was going to have to be served prasadam by someone other than a Brahmin. In his life, he had never taken anything, his whole life, at the age of about 20, 21, 22, never taken anything from the hand of someone who wasn't a Brahmana. This is the culture. And he'd only ever taken Mahaprasad in his whole life. He'd never taken anything else. So when you have that sort of impression, that sort of sanskar, it's very deep. So to become purified of that and see it beyond that as Vaishnavas, that Vaishnavas actually are beyond even the caste consideration. It's a huge thing. For Westerners, we don't understand it because we haven't been brought up in that circumstance. But we should appreciate the depth of this in Indian culture. It's very, very deep. Even today, of course, you go around anywhere and everyone will know who is a Brahmin and who is not a Brahmin. They'll behave accordingly. He had relinquished his pride in his caste so completely that as soon as he saw a Vaishnava, he would offer him Dandavat pranams and forcibly take the dust from his feet. He would seek out pure Vaishnavas in order to honor the remnants of their meals. His sons came to him from time to time, but when they understood his mood, they departed quickly, not daring to propose that he should come home with them. To look at Lahari Mahashai now, one would certainly take him to be a Vaishnava Babaji. From the philosophy of the Vaishnavas of Sri Godram, Lahari Mahashai had understood that the essential principle in genuine detachment within the heart and is genuine detachment within the heart and not the adoption of external dress of not the sorry and not the adoption of the external dress of renunciation. Yes, it's a heart process. It's not about the external dress. We said in the very beginning when Vaishnava Das was asking to change his dress, Babaji said, I don't give instructions on dress. I wait until your dress is coming from your heart and you decide that's most convenient for your lifestyle to arrange for your dress. My Gurudev used to always say, if you're married, you stay in the married ashram. If you're brahmachari, then stay in the brahmachari ashram. If you're sannyasi, then stay in that. Don't be jumping around from one ashram to the next ashram to the next. Very bewildering for the mind. Just stay in one place. Don't be jumping. Um, had understood that the essential principle in genuine detachment is genuine detachment within the heart, and not the adoption of external dress of renunciation. In order to minimize his needs, he followed the example of Sri Sanatana Goswami and tore one piece of cloth into four to use as his garments. That means a top piece and a bottom piece, and then you're washing one. You have two sets of cloth, one you're washing and one you're wearing. He tore one piece of cloth into four to use as his garments. Nonetheless, he still wore his sacred thread around his neck. Yes, that's optional. Whenever his sons wanted to give him some money, he would reply, I will not accept even a single kodi from materialists. Kodi is like a conch shell worth of money. Chandrasekhar, his eldest son, once brought him 100 rupees for a festival to feed the Vaishnavas, but Lahari Mahashai remembered Sri Das Goswami's example and did not accept the money. This is a little bit different to the Yukta Vairagya that we understand. If we get offered money, we take it and we utilize it. We utilize whatever is given to us in Krishna's service. We're not, if someone wants to give us some money, take it and buy books with it, or help some construction of a temple, or food for life, or some type of distribution, or make the money be utilized in Krishna's service to therefore um, give mercy to the person who gave the money. If someone gives you money and you use that money in Krishna's service, then that's great fortune for that person who gave the money. One day, Paramahamsa Babaji said, Lahari Maharshai, you are now free from all traces of non-Vaishnava behavior. Even though you have accepted the vows of mendicancy, we can still learn much from you about renunciation. So the Vaishnavas are respectful and admiring his renunciation. You need only accept a Vaishnava name for everything to be complete. Lahari Maharshai replied, you are my Param Guru. Please do as you see fit. So this is Paramahamsa Babaji. Babaji Maharshai said, your residence is at Sri Shantipur, so we will address you as Sri Advaita Das. Lahari Maharshai fell in prostrated obeisances and accepted the mercy of his new name. From that day on, everyone called him Sri Advaita Das, and they referred to the kutia in which he resided and performed his bhajan as Advaita Kutia. The name is important because we start to relate to the name rather than our previous name. My Guru Dev used to very quickly give Harinam initiation, and he described that it makes that person feel part of the Vaishnava group just by having a Vaishnava name. If you make them wait so long before you even give them Harinam, then perhaps they may leave. But if you give them a Vaishnava name, it's almost like you're putting a collar around them straight away. So he was very liberal with Harinam. Diksha would be different, but Harinam, and we in our various circumstances of preaching amongst different people, as soon as it's possible to give someone a devotional name, we should do like that. You can call it a pet name or anything like that, anything you want to say, but make them feel like a devotee. If you get that name, it gives you the identity of being a devotee rather than of being a materialist. Straight away, you change your identity. Advaita Das had a childhood friend named Digambar Chattopadhyaya, who had earned vast wealth and reputation by performing important services in the Muslim royal administration. When Digambar Chattopadhyaya attained seniority, he retired from his government post and returned to his village of Ambika. There he heard that his childhood friend had renounced his home and was now living in Godram under the name Sri Advaita Das and was spending his time chanting Harinam. Digambar Chattopadhyaya was a dogmatic worshipper of the goddess Durga, and he would block his ears with his hands if he so much as heard the name of a Vaishnava. When he heard about the downfall of his beloved friend, he said to his servant, Vamanadas, arrange for a boat immediately, and I will go straight to Godram. The servant quickly hired a boat and reported back to his master. Digambar Chattopadhyaya was very astute. He was a scholar of the Tantra Shastras and was highly skilled in the ways of Muslim civilization. His knowledge of Farsi and Arabic forced even Muslim scholars and teachers to admit defeat at his hands, and he would leave any Brahmana scholar dumbfounded by his expertise in arguing the Tantra Shastras. He had acquired a significant reputation in Delhi, Lucknow, and other cities, and in his spare time he had written a book called Tantra Sangraha, a compendium on the Tantra, in which he displayed his extensive learning through his commentaries on the shlokas. Digambar took his Tantra Sangraha with him and climbed into the boat in a fiery mood. Within 6 hours, they arrived at Sri Godar. Ambika Kalna is only about an hour or so south of here, but previously the principal way to travel was by Ganga on boat. Within 6 hours, they arrived at Shigodram, where Digambar instructed an intelligent man to go to Sri Advaita Das while he himself remained in the boat. Digambar's messenger found Sri Advaita Das sitting in his kutia chanting Harinam, and he offered pranam to him. Who are you, and why have you come? Inquired Advaita Das. The man replied, I have been sent by the Venerable Digambar Chattopadhyaya. He asks whether Kalidas still remembers him or whether he has forgotten him. Sri Advaita Das asked rather eagerly, Where is Digambar? He is my childhood friend. How could I possibly forget him? Has he now adopted Vaishnava Dharma? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is remarkable. He's weaving in here. He's just elevated Lahari Mahashai to the platform of Advaita Das Babaji. And now he's going to be given a test of his childhood friend and what is their relationship. His childhood friend is as far away from a Vaishnava as we could imagine. And how is he going to relate in a loving way with an old friend as well as maintain his very strict principles of Vaishnavism? This is what this chapter is going to be about. It's remarkable how Bhaktivinoda Thakur is weaving this together. The man said, He is sitting in a boat at the riverside. I cannot say whether he is a Vaishnava or not. Advaita Das said, Why is he at the riverside? Why doesn't he come to my kutia? But you see, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is illuminating all kinds of things here. How Digambar has his servant immediately. This is the Brahmin caste. They have the servants, and they just perform these activities immediately. And when the boat reaches, he just calls one person who immediately will go and perform a menial service like a messenger. This is the remnant of Varnashram Dham. You see, it's there. It's impregnated into society of this land. When the messenger heard these inviting words, he left to inform Digambar, who arrived at Advaita Kutia within an hour, accompanied by a few other gentlemen. Digambar had always been a generous man at heart, and now he became overwhelmed with joy when he saw his old friend. He embraced Sri Advaita Das and sang a song that he had composed himself. Kali Tomara Lila Kela Ke Jana Ma Tribhuvane Kabu Purush Kabu Nari Kabu Mata Hoy Rane Brahma Hoye Shristi Kare Shristi Nasha Hoya Hare Vishnu Hoye Vishva Vyapi Pala Go Ma Sarva Jane Krishna Rupe Vrindavane Vamsi Bhajayo Vane Vane Abara Gaura Hoya Navadvipa Matayo Shabe Sankirtane. O Mother Kali, who in the three worlds can fathom your pastimes? Sometimes you take the shape of a man, sometimes that of a woman, and sometimes you appear in battle in a ferocious mood. As Lord Brahma, you create the universe. As Lord Shiva, you destroy it. And as Lord Vishnu, you pervade the universe and maintain all living entities. As Sri Krishna, you appear in Vrindavan and wander from forest to forest playing the flute. Then again you appear in Navadvip as Sri Gora and intoxicate everyone with the chanting of Sri Harinam. So we can get the identity of Digambar straight away. He's attributing all this to Mother Kali. Mother Kali is the supreme. This is who Digambar is. This is what we're going to be confronting here. Advaita Das offered Digambar Chattopadhyaya a seat made of leaves, saying, Come in, my brother, come in. It has been such a long time since we last met. So even though he's understanding, obviously, the condition of Digambar's mind, still he's welcoming him because he's putting their familial relationship first. That would be a confrontation of material love if he said, Oh, why you straight away start arguing or something. This is not gentle behavior. Digambar sat on the seat, expressing his affection with tears as he said, My brother Kalidas, where shall I go? Now you have become a renunciant, and you don't care for the devas or for your religious duties. I came from Punjab filled with so much hope, but our boyhood friends have all gone. Pesha, Pagal, Kendar, Girish, Ishe, Pagla, Danuv, Kali, the carpenter, and Kanti Bhattacharya have all passed away. Now only you and I remain. I thought I could sometimes cross the Ganga and meet you at Shantipur, and you could sometimes cross the Ganga and visit me in Ambika. We could have spent whatever time remains to us singing together and studying the Tantra Shastra. Alas, fate has dealt me a cruel blow. You have become a worthless heap of cow dung, of no use in this life or the next. Tell me, how has this happened to you? So Digambar is a straightforward, honest man, and he's expressing his feelings here. Adwaitadas could see that his boyhood friend was most undesirable company, and he began to devise a way of escaping from his clutches. Thinking like this, he said, "Brother Digambar, do you remember the day in Ambika when you were playing Guli Danda and we reached the old tamarind tree?" Digambar, yes, yes, I remember very clearly. It was the tamarind tree just next to Goridas Pandit's house. Gaur Nitai used to sit underneath that tree. Adwaita, yes, yes, brother. As we were playing, you said, "Don't touch this tamarind tree. Aunt Sachi's son used to sit here, and if you touch this tree, we shall become renunciants." Digambar, fine, fine, I remember it well. I noticed that you had some leaning towards the Vaishnavas, and I said, if you fall into I said you will fall into Gauranga's trap. Adwaita, brother, that has been my nature. At that time, I was only on the verge of falling into that trap, but now I have actually fallen in. Digambar, take my hand and come out. It is not good to remain in a trap. Adwaita, brother, I am very happy in this trap. I pray to remain here forever. Just touch this trap once and see for yourself. Digambar, I have seen everything. It seems like happiness in the beginning, but in the end you will see that it is just deception. Adwaita, and what about the trap you are in? Do you expect to obtain great happiness in the end? Don't delude yourself. So they're bringing it to a head. Digambar, look, we are the attendants of the goddess Mahavidya, Durga. We enjoy happiness now, and we will also enjoy it hereafter. We think you think that you are happy now, but I don't see that you are happy at all. Furthermore, there will be no limit to your suffering in the end. I cannot understand why anyone becomes a Vaishnava. You see, we enjoy eating meat and fish. We are well dressed and we are more civilized than you Vaishnavas. We enjoy all the happiness that material science affords, whereas you are deprived of all these things, and ultimately you will not even gain deliverance. Adwaita, why, brother? Why do you claim that there will be no deliverance for me in the end? Digambar, no one, even Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva, can ever obtain salvation if they are indifferent to Mother Nistarini. Mother Nistarini, she who grants deliverance, is the primordial power. She manifests Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, and after that she maintains them by her active potency, Karya Shakti. When that mother desires, everything re enters her womb, which is the vessel that contains the entire universe. Have you ever worshipped the mother to invoke her mercy? So now we're coming into a long discussion on Mother Nistarini. So I think we'll stop at this place. So remember for tomorrow. Adwaita is asking, is Mother Nistarini a conscious entity or inert matter? Digambar, she is consciousness personified and she possesses independent will. It is by her desire alone that spirit is created. So we'll stop there and carry on tomorrow. But it's a fascinating conversation that's about to manifest between these two. How amazing is Bhaktivinoda Thakur weaving such an incredible, dramatic narration just to give us all of the essential ingredients of what can happen when you're a Vaishnava. You can meet all different people of different um, cults and beliefs, and maybe they're material old friends like this. How are you going to deal with that? How is that going to work out? But we take one thing, that Advaita is completely respectful at this point. You know, the behavior is proper, is not um, angry or anything like that. So this is important to appreciate. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Jai Vedama ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gold Premanandi. Now we come to page 198. Now this is principally going to be a discussion between what is a Shakta. A Shakta worships only Shakti. How can there just be energy without the energetic source? Have you got any experience of light that doesn't have a source? Is there any such thing? Tell me. We have the sunlight, we have the moonlight, we have the electric light, we have the firelight. There's always a source to every form of light, isn't there? That's the Shaktiman. There must be an origin to Shakti. That's Krishna. But the Shakta, he just worships the Shakti alone. And he believes that he will become that Shakti. It's really confusing. But this is Digambar. Digambar, that the name I was reading in the notes, it signifies the directions. Digambar means all the directions. So the 10 directions, up and down, northeast, south, and west, and in between. So 8 directions plus up and down is 10. So now Digambar has come in a, it's a mix here. We've got the philosophy coming in, and we've got the emotional reaction that Advaita Babaji is going to respond to his old friend, his childhood friend. We saw the exchange when Digambar first arrived. He embraced him. He was so happy to see him, genuinely happy to see his old friend. They were very happy to. So, how are they going to maintain cordial relationships when their philosophy is so far apart now? This is part of the dynamic that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to bring out here. So, the last place we came to was that Advaita is asking about Mother Nishtarini. Is Mother Nishtarini? Mother Nishtarini basically is Durgama. This is who she is, and who he considers Shakti. They are Shaktas. And the Shaktas, it's described, are like the material scientists. They're basically dealing with the commodities of this world. They're not able to connect with that transcendental world. They're stuck in this world. Is Mother Nistarini a conscious entity or inert matter? Digambar. She is consciousness personified, and she possesses independent will. It is by her desire alone that spirit is created. Advaita. What is Purush and what is Prakriti? He's trying to bring him out the distinction between Shakti and Shaktiman. Purush is Krishna. What is that male source? Prakriti is the feminine. So what are these distinctions here? Digambar. Vaishnavas engage only in bhajan. They have no knowledge of fundamental philosophical truths. Although Purush and Prakriti manifest as two phenomena, they are actually one. Well, that's not a fact, but anyway. Like the two halves of a chickpea. If you take the outer skin off the chickpea, there are two halves, but if the outer skin remains, there is one chickpea. Purush is conscious, and Prakriti is inert. When the conscious and the inert merge into one undifferentiated substance, it is known as Brahm. That's the all-pervasive one. So try to get a picture of what he's saying. It's completely another philosophy. Advaita, is your mother Prakriti, female, or Purush, male? He's asking the same question again. He wants a statement. He wants to make Digambar think about this. That's why he's asking. Digambar, sometimes she is female and sometimes she is male. Advaita, so if Parush and Prakriti are like the two halves of a chickpea covered by a skin, which is the mother and which is the father? Let's have some sense here. He's trying to make him, what are you talking about? You're just talking blah, 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 like they just throw a lot of words at you. Advaita is a schooled Vaishnava scholar. He wants truth. Digambar, are you making philosophical inquiries? Excellent. We are well acquainted with the truth. The fact is that the mother is Prakriti, matter, and the father is Chaitanya, consciousness. Advaita, and who are you? So if he's mentioned the material energy, he's mentioned the Vastu, these are the three Vastus, then what is the nature of the Jiva in connection here? He wants Digambar to think. I am spirit and mother is matter. Oh. When I am bound, she is mother. When I become liberated, she will be my wife. Sorry, I did. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And who are you? Digambar. Pasha Bado, Bhave Jiva, Pashu Mukta, Sada Shiva. When one is bound by the ropes of Maya, one is a Jiva. And when one is released from these bonds, one is Lord Sada Shiva. Advaita. So are you spirit or matter? Digambar. I am spirit, and mother is matter. When I am bound, she is mother. When I become liberated, she will be my wife. We can laugh, and but they really take this to heart and believe this. They've been brought up.
Very interesting theory.
Yes, don't get too interested in it. Yeah, but Advaita will purify it completely. Oh, splendid! Now the whole truth is exposed without any doubt. The person who is your mother now will become your wife later. Where did you get such a philosophy? Digambar, brother, I am not like you, simply wandering here and there and saying Vaishnava, Vaishnava. I have acquired this knowledge by associating with innumerable perfected and liberated sannyasis, brahmacharis, and tantrics, and by studying the Tantra Shastras day and night. If you wish, I can also make you fit for understanding this knowledge. He hasn't actually said anything of knowledge yet. Advaita's already defeated him. Advaita thought to himself, what a ghastly misfortune. But aloud he said, very well, please explain one idea to me. What is civilization and what is material science? Prakritika Vigyan. So he's changing the subject because this is just too off the wall, what he's proposing. That she's a mother and then she's going to become his wife and then he's going to become Lord Shiva. It's just, for the Vaishnava, it's too bizarre. So let's look at another part, civilization. So we see the scientist in civilization, the materialist in civilization, and Shaktas have the same impression of civilization as Digambar does. They think they can exploit material civilization. What are they doing now? A1 is the big thing. Let's make robots to do everything, and then we'll just be freed from any type of work. We'll control more. This is the demon mentality. Manipulating, yes. Control, control, control is the quality of a demon and engendered by fear. I said this yesterday. Digambar, civilization means to speak courteously in a cultured society, to dress oneself in a respectable and pleasing manner, and to eat and to conduct oneself in a way that is not repugnant to others. You do none of these things. Why do you say that? Digambar, you are distinctly unsociable. Yes, Vaishnavas are. They don't go to social gatherings. They're not into the social world. We know it's Maya. For you do not mingle with others. No, we don't mingle frivolously with others. We have no time. The Vaishnavas have never learned what it means to please others with sweet words. Well, that's not true. As soon as they lay eyes on anyone, they command him to chant Harinam. This is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. Why is there no other civilized discussion? Anyone who sees your dress will not be inclined to let you sit in an assembly. You wear a loincloth, a peculiar tuft of hair on your head, on the top of your head, and a garland of beads around your neck. What kind of outfit is this? And you eat only potatoes and roots. You are not at all civilized. So, this is the materialist conception of a Vaishnava. We have to appreciate the reality of this. Digambar is seeing the Vaishnavas like this. We chuckle, but they have that conception. So give them some sort of sense of worth in the sense that that's what they see, that's what they perceive. Appreciate that. Advaita Das determined that if he were to start a quarrel and Digambar went away angered, it would be a great relief. So he said, does your type of civilized living give you the opportunity to attain a higher destination in the next life? Digambar, culture does not in itself grant one a higher destination in the next life, but how can society be elevated without culture? If society, you see, there's little lines of truth within what he's saying. This is what gives the credence to the Shakti, to any religion. They've got some abas of dharma there. Something is there. And they've just conjured up some speculative arrangement with the original truth. They've speculated on that. They've taken the heart of something that is pure and they've made it impure. You understand? But how can society be elevated without culture? If society is elevated, then one can endeavor for progress in other planets. If society is elevated, then one can endeavor for progress in other planets. Oh, I see. Advaita, that means you go to other planets? Advaita, brother, I may say something if you will not become angry. Digambar, you are my childhood friend. I would give up my life for you. How can I not tolerate whatever you have to say? I am fond of courtesy. Even if I become angry, my words remain sweet. The more a man can conceal his inner feelings, the more cultured he is considered to be. It's all the antithesis of Vaishnavism. It's upside down. Advaita, human life is very short, and there are many disturbances in this brief span of life. The only duty of humanity is to worship Sri Hari with simplicity. Studying the ways of material civilization and culture is simply deceiving the soul. We've talked about this constantly in the Falshruti. All of these material dharmas are to be rejected. They all contain duplicity. They're only about this social material world. I have understood the word Shabhyat, Shabhyata, Shabhyata, civilization, is simply another name for civil deception. A human being remains simple as long as he adheres to the path of truth. When he adopts the path of dishonesty, he desires to appear civilized and to please others by sweet words. But internally, he remains addicted to deception and wicked deeds. What you describe as civilization has no good qualities, because truthfulness and simplicity are really the only good qualities. Without truthfulness and simplicity, you have nothing. It's the legs of religion of the cow that have been broken. In modern times, civilization has come to mean keeping one's depravity concealed within. The word Shabhyata literally means fitness to participate in Shabha, or a virtuous assembly. In reality, civilization that is free from sin and deception is only found among Vaishnavas. Non Vaishnavas very much appreciate civilization that is saturated with sin. The civilization that you speak of is not related to the Nitya Dharma of the Jiva. We see society. If civilization means to adorn oneself in stylish clothes to appeal to others, then prostitutes are more civilized than you are. The only requirement for clothing is that it should cover the body and be clean and free from unpleasant odor. Food is faultless when it is pure and nutritious, but you only care whether it tastes good. You don't even consider whether it is pure or not, like meat is not pure. Wine and meat are naturally impure, and a civilization based upon the consumption of such things is simply a society dedicated to sin. What passes as civilization at present is the culture of Kali Yuga. Very nicely put, just in a short way. Digambar, have you forgotten the civilization of the Muslim emperors? Just consider the manners with which people sit in the court of a Muslim emperor, how politely they speak, and with such proper etiquette. Advaita, that is only worldly conduct. How deficient is a man really if he does not abide by these external formalities? Oh, how deficient is a man really if he doesn't abide by these external formalities? Brother, you have served in the Muslim government for so long that you have become partial to that type of civilization. In reality, human life only becomes civilized when it is sinless. The so called advancement of civilization in Kali Yuga simply means an increase in sinful activity. This is nothing but hypocrisy. This is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. Everywhere we see. We don't need to go into the details. Digambar, look, educated modern men have concluded that civilization means humanism, and that those who are not civilized are not human beings. To dress women attractively and thereby conceal their faults is considered to be a sign of sophistication. Advaita. Just consider whether this idea is good or bad. I perceive that those whom you call educated are merely rogues who have taken advantage of the times. Such people favor this deceitful civilization partly because of sinful impressions within their hearts and partly because they see it as an opportunity to conceal their faults. Can a wise man find happiness in such a civilization? Only vain arguments and physical intimidation can maintain veneration for a civilization of rogues. This is a civilized, everything pure has become inverted. It's all become upside down in this age of Kali. It's gone right on the top of its head. We see all the wealthy, rich, and famous people in the world today, the ones that have the spotlight in the media and so on, they all engaging in all these sinful activities. They say that look for pleasure in the world first. Don't think about God and renouncing things of this world. Get more. They advertise their flamboyant wealth and so on, try to make other people envious because they are so envious. They try to make others envious by showing you their opulent lifestyle and so on, and trying to make the oppressed, the innocent oppressed, feel envious towards them. It's the duty of the Vaishnavas to teach to the innocent not to become envious of such useless articles, such useless material wealth, completely useless. Digambar, some people say that society is advancing with the increase of knowledge in the world, and eventually it will be like heaven on earth. Okay? Advaita, that is simply fantasy. It is quite extraordinary that people have faith in this. It is even more bizarre that others have the audacity to propagate such a view without actually believing it themselves. There are two types of knowledge. Paramatic knowledge relates to eternal truth, while Lokic knowledge relates to this transitory world. Paramatic knowledge does not seem to be increasing. On the contrary, in most cases, knowledge has been corrupted and deviated from its original nature. Only Lokic knowledge seems to be on the increase. Does the jiva have an eternal relationship with Lokic knowledge? It's a wonderful sentence. Does the jiva have an eternal relationship with matter? We hope not. When Lokic Gyan increases, people's minds become distracted. The more we look into these other alternatives in life, etc., we just become distracted from the origin by temporary material pursuits, and they neglect the origin of spiritual truth. I firmly believe that the more Lokik Gyan increases, the more duplicitous a civilization becomes. This is the great misfortune of the living beings. That's a beautiful explanation. The more we appear to have material developed, um, consciousness, material developed. If we read in the fifth canto, there's a chapter called The Subterranean Heavenly Planets, and they have such an opulent lifestyle. They have all kinds of elixirs that can relieve your old age pains, can rejuvenate the body, and so on. There's so much focus on this body and life, and they have tuned to such a high material sensual pleasure. These are the subterranean heavenly planets. These are below the earth, and they all feel happy in that material pleasure, but they are all terrified of the chakra of the Lord because he will annihilate them. And the light that comes in those worlds is from the nagas, from the serpents, the Kaliya nagas. They're jewels in their heads, and they just spend their whole life indulging in sense gratification, and they are deprived of an opportunity to connect with anything transcendental because it's all focusing on material gain. Therefore, they are called hellish planets. They have no, but to the materialist, it sounds good. And it's as if here we are trying to replicate that. We're trying to bring those earthly, those lower subterranean planets into this world. Where do we think computers came from? Where do we think all this electronic stuff? It all came from the lower regions. It filtered through. It's nothing but demonic, ultimately. It doesn't bring happiness. These cell phones only bring torment. It seems that it steals our time. And there's an expression, our time, it seems, becomes crunched. We just don't have time for anything. It becomes sandwiched by these electronics. This is filtering through from the subterranean heavenly planets. It's coming through China first.
Brain damaging also.
Yes, brain damaging, depleting, debilitating, taking away all personal moods of relationships, etc. And everyone does it. So this age is filled with a demonic atmosphere, quarrel and hypocrisy. But the Vaishnavas, knowing about these things, should become aloof to these things and show some restraint. At least some restraint should be there in indulgence in these things. Um, that's a beautiful paragraph. This is a great misfortune for the living beings. Digamba, a misfortune? Why? Advaita, as I have said before, human life is very short. The jivas are like travelers at an inn, and they should use this brief span of life to prepare themselves for their ultimate destination. It would be sheer foolishness if travelers staying in an inn were so caught up in improving the conditions of their stay that they forgot their destination. The more one's involvement with material knowledge increases, the more one's time for spiritual matters dwindles. It's like the more you chant, the less you have to do in this world. Why? Because the less material desires you have. As you chant more, your material desires go down. Therefore, you don't have to be so active in the material world because you don't have those gross and subtle desires. You don't feel any necessity to perform various functions that you did previously. And Krishna always makes the arrangement. The more one's involvement with material knowledge increases, the more one's time for spiritual matters dwindles. I am convinced that material knowledge should be used only as much as it is needed to maintain one's livelihood. There is no necessity for excessive material knowledge, and its companion, material civilization. This is what the topic is, material civilization. For how many days will this earthly glitter remain? Why are we struggling to bring this up? Digambar, I see that I have fallen into the clutches of an unyielding renunciant. Then does society serve no function? Advaita, that depends upon the composition of a particular society. The function served by a society of Vaishnavas is highly beneficial for the jivas, but a society of non-Vaishnavas or a society that is merely secular serves no advantageous function for the jivas. What does secular mean? Or a society that is merely secular. I think it means like sort of robotic. I have to check this word. You can't give me? I'm talking to a Finnish person and a person from Croatia about the vocabulary of English.
Monday.
Huh?
Monday.
Mundane? Secular mundane? Okay, that fits. That is merely mundane, secular. Serves no advantageous function for the jivas. But enough of this topic. Tell me, what do you mean by material science? So we'll stop there. But material science is the pursuit of these acquirements, thinking that thinking that we've got a remedy for every type of disease. We can even change your heart for you. We can put a pig's heart inside you. Pig's hearts are very strong. Why not take a pig's heart?
However, this material science that we're talking about, the internet, for example, connected all of us. Even now, this.
We are utilizing
Yeah.
this facility for our own advantage of spreading Vaishnavism. If this facility wasn't there, we still would be connecting and using our skills. I can remember in my life, you know, the first 55, 60 years of my life, there was not internet. Yes, he's an old man too. And I was very happily preaching to all the different people, speaking and hearing from all the Vaishnavas.
But if there was no internet, I would never find you.
Huh?
If there was no internet, I would
Somehow we would have arranged and everything would have been connected. But we can't depend on these things. At any moment, the demons can take down the internet in a second. It's their choice. They put them up there, they can pull them down. So if we become dependent on these man-made things, but if we become dependent on Mahaprabhu's gifts of the holy name, dependent on the qualities of that we find within the Vaishnavas, if we take this focus, everything we'll be satisfied in the heart. That supersedity. We won't want anything. Does this internet satisfy the heart? It agitates the mind. It crunches, like I said, our time perception. Everything becomes sandwiched. We just have no time for the finer things of life, for relationships, for proper behavior. Everything is rushing. Oh, I'll just send you a text, send you, Anyway, you know all these things. Interesting chapter. Fascinating chapter. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is completely right up with the times. Totally in touch. He's got his finger on the pulse. He knows what is coming. So he's giving us, it's in a different terminology, so to speak, but it's the same truth that's coming through. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Jai Vedama ki jai, Ananta Gauda Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Vol Premanande. So now we come to page 203. And yesterday we left it, the discussion, not really discussion, but the agitation of Digambar towards Advaita. And we can see, looking closely, Digambar is very proud of his tantric knowledge, etc. What is synonymous with pride? Envy. If you're proud, it means you think you're better than somebody else. So Digambar is convinced that he's better than Advaita. So this is an envious conversation on the part of Digambar. But how is the Vaishnava behaving in the light of that conversation. This is what we can really pick up here, because we've just read about Vaishnava etiquette in chapter 8, and now we're reading and studying how does a Vaishnava behave when someone attacks him, more or less, or attacks his faith. We saw in chapter 6 when those Brahmanas, they approached the Vaishnavas and they wanted to um, debate with them. They wanted to know why Muslims could be accepted in the assembly of Vaishnavas. So they were also envious of the Vaishnavas. This enviousness is the cause of our being in this material world. So it comes out in different ways. We should all pray to be purified of this trait of envy. Because when that trait is pure, then what two qualities come? Humility. Huh? Yes, purity, but humility and forgiveness and compassion, these qualities automatically come. Humility and prem. These are the two to remember. Humility and prem are synonymous. Envy and pride are synonymous. Two on that side and two on that side. So now, Advaita, he's asked the question. This was the last thing we came to yesterday. Tell me, what do you mean by material science? So this whole world today, in particular, is people are judging the world by the degree of their apparent advancement in material science. How good is medicine, etc. They think that they went to the moon. Material science. These are the atheists of the age. These are the atheists of the age. They think everything can be boiled down to a scientific, logical, rational approach. That means they annihilate the moods of the heart's connection through devotion. They don't have any devotion except to themselves. This path of devotion that I just saying, this Rag Vartman Chandrika, it's very rare. It's a small path. We are so fortunate if we've stumbled by some great fortune onto this path. It's the greatest cause for celebration. Really it is. Really it is. We should be so joyful each day and try to unpack more and more clarity in it, more and more illumination. So tell me, what do you mean by material science? Digambar, the Tantra Shastra has delineated many types of material science. Patrika Vigyan. Material science includes whatever knowledge, skill, and beauty are to be found in the material world. Yes, it's all in the material world. It's all limited by time and space. The material world has past, present, and future. The spiritual world only has the powerful present. There's no past and present, and there's no past and future in the spiritual world. As well as all the various branches of knowledge, such as military science, medical science, music, dance, and astronomy. Prakriti, material nature, is the primordial power, and by her own potency, she has manifested this material universe and all the variety in it. These are the wondrous workings of Maya that have completely delusioned the ignorant, conditioned soul to think how wonderful is this material energy, completely fascinated by it. This is the materialist, the atheist. Each and every form is a byproduct of this potency and is accompanied by the knowledge or science corresponding to it. You see, there's words of truth mixed in here. Shakti Tattva represents everything. Everything that has manifested from Krishna is coming through Swarup Shakti. Everything in existence comes through. So the Vaishnavas are the principal Shaktas, in fact. So all material science has come through the inspiration of Shakti. It's true. But he's limiting it to just that point of how they can exploit it. And he thinks it's coming from man. He's not giving it credence from the actual origin of this Shakti, who is the counterpart to Sri Krishna. It's very limited. When one acquires that knowledge, he is liberated from sins committed to Mother Nastarini, Nishtarini. The Vaishnavas do not seek this knowledge, but we Shaktas will obtain liberation on the strength of it. Just consider how many books have been written in pursuance of this knowledge by great men such as Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, and the famous Hakim. Advaita. Digambar, you have said that the Vaishnavas have no interest in Vigyan, experiential, realized knowledge, but that is not true. The pure knowledge of the Vaishnavas is endowed with Vigyan. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Jnanam Param Guyam Me Yad Vigyan Samanvitaham Sa Rahasyam Tadangam Cha Grana Gaditam Maya. Srimad Bhagavatam 2, 931. This is one of the Chatushlokis. Sri Bhagavan said, O Brahma, knowledge of me is non-dual, and yet it has four distinct divisions: Gyan, Vigyan, Rahasya, and Tadanga. A jiva cannot understand this by his own intelligence, but you can understand it by my mercy. That's the key. It's by his mercy that we can understand it. Gyan is my swarup, and my relationship with my potency is Vigyan, realization. This is so deep compared to what Digambar has just said. Digambar just said hot words, but this is really powerful what he's saying in response. The jiva is my rahasya, secret mystery, and pradhan is my gyan anga. These material elements that Krishna infuses himself to manifest this world, his gyan anga. Before this creation, Bhagavan was pleased with Brahma's worship and instructed him on the tenets of pure Vaishnava Dharma. Bhagavan said, O Brahma, I am explaining to you this most confidential gyan of myself, the Vigyan with which it is endowed, its Rahasya, and all its Angas, components. Accept all of this from me. So the principle here is that it is Krishna who is infusing this knowledge into Lord Brahma. That's its origin. He's giving credit to where it originated. Whereas Digambar, it's all like speculative. It's all like saying these men were great. Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, they were all so great themselves, not even connected to God or Krishna. Even though they probably prayed, but they were so, you know, proud of their own wisdom and philosophy, etc. It is begun through the senses, but that knowledge, where we go. All human beings acquire Vishaya Gyan through the senses, but that knowledge is impure. Yes, we acquire knowledge through the senses. For example, you might see some smoke looking like it's smoke on a mountain, and you might think, oh, that's a fire on the mountain, but it may be a cloud that's come down on the mountain. So your own perception can be faulty. It's not always correct. That's one example. There's so many examples when we might judge something by our own direct perception, but the reality is different to that. It is only use. Where is it? But that knowledge is impure, so it is useless for discerning transcendental objects. You can't, I've said many times, crack the gates of heaven, so to speak. With material intelligence, you can't reach a place of transcendence. It's just like firewood has the inherent nature of fire within it, but it can never, ever, ever come on fire until another piece of wood touches it that's already on fire, can it? Even though that fire is within the wood. It can't just by combustion suddenly start to burn. Sometimes they say bamboos, but bamboos are rubbing together that cause a friction, that cause some spark to happen and a fire will come. But wood inherently can't ignite itself. Similarly, from the material conscious, you can't ignite transcendence. There has to be someone who is already transcendental touching you. It has to be that way. It can't be any other way. So if we just try to use our material senses, intelligence and logic, etc., rationale, it can never be successful. It just leads into speculative holes. It is only useful in relation to the jiva's conditioned state of material existence, yes, in this material world. Knowledge that pertains to spiritual consciousness is known as Shuddha Gyan, pure knowledge. That is eternal and is the basis of the Vaishnava's devotional service. If it's eternal, then it's Nitya. It's Nitya Dharma. It's Nitya Prem. Nitya. Spiritual knowledge is the antithesis of material knowledge, the opposite of material knowledge, and is completely distinct from it. You say that Vishaya Gyan and Vigyan, you say that Vishaya Gyan is Vigyan. But it is not Vigyan. Vishaya Gyan means knowledge of worldly objects. And he's saying this is realized knowledge. It's not realized knowledge. There's so much error there. Like I gave the example of the smoke on the mountain. There's error there. So you say that Vishaya Gyan is Vigyan, but it is not Vigyan in the true sense of the term. The real reason that your Ayurveda, the real reason that your Ayurveda and other types of material knowledge are called Vigyan is that they are in contrast to pure spiritual knowledge. They're different to pure spiritual knowledge. True Vigyan is that pure knowledge that is distinct from material knowledge. There is no difference between Gyan, which is the knowledge of a truly abiding substance, Chidvastu, and Vigyan, that means Dharma. There is in the dharmic sense, which is the knowledge of how such an object is distinct from matter. Gyan is direct perception of a transcendental object, whereas Vigyan is the establishment of pure knowledge in contrast to material knowledge. Vigyan is the establishment of the purity of that truth. What is Dharma? There is material Dharma, Naimitic Dharma, and there is Paramatic Dharma. We've already discussed this, these two different types of Dharma. Digambar is proposing that this Naimitic Dharma is actually superior, but it's not. Whereas Vigyan is the establishment of pure knowledge in contrast to material knowledge. Although these two are actually the same thing, they are known either as Gyan or as Vigyan according to the methods they employ. So Gyan and Vigyan. We can say it's Vigyan if we've had realization of it. But that Vigyan can also just be knowledge on its own. And then if it's realized, then it's Vigyan. Vigyan is the personality who's realizing that knowledge. That's Vigyan means realized knowledge, realization. You refer to material knowledge as Vigyan, but the Vaishnavas say that Vigyan is the true diagnosis of material knowledge. They have examined the nature of military science, medical science, astronomy, and chemistry, and they have concluded that they are all material knowledge, that the jiva has no eternal connection with them. So this is a fallacy from the beginning. This is the Mayavad, like the Shakta, like Digambar. It's like saying 1 + 1 = 3 from the very beginning. They're not counting the eternality, the um, practically mystical component with understanding the transcendental reality. They have concluded that they are all material knowledge and that the jiva has no eternal connection with them. Therefore, these different types of material knowledge are of no consequence in relation to the jiva's nitya dharma, because they're not connecting them with transcendence. They're not putting in that extra ingredient of the origin of where that understanding has come from. They haven't put, like the verse said that we've just read, it's Krishna who is imparting this knowledge to Lord Brahma. He is the transcendental personality, like I just described. You can't get a dull piece of wood on fire without another piece of wood that's already on fire. But Digambar is proposing that, oh yes, you can um, speculate and pretend that it's ignited, but it's not. It's a fallacy. It's a trick of Mayadevi. The Vaishnavas understand that those who are expanding their mundane knowledge according to their material propensities are immersed in karma kanda. What does karma kanda mean? It means acquisition of objects in this material world. It means I'm looking to increase, so I'll build a big house. I'll make all elaborate arrangements for my own sense gratification. This is the path of karma kanda. I'm I'm looking for my well-being and satisfaction in material objects, not in spiritual objects. It's completely the antithesis, as it was said in the beginning here. It's the opposite of the reality. Only the Vaishnavas know this. The Vaishnavas understand the true ingredient behind matter is spirit. Matter is not born from matter. It's born from, there's the example that's given. It's like sometimes people are so deluded, they believe that scorpions are born from rice, because sometimes you find scorpions in rice, and they conclude that, oh, the scorpions have taken birth from the rice, but they haven't. The scorpions were laid there by a female scorpion. Then the female scorpion left, and then the um, eggs, they hatched inside the rice. Not that the rice produced the scorpions. So we should always know the thread, the eternal thread, the nitya thread, the transcendental thread, the transcendental current. This is what Digambar hasn't got, and he never will get, actually. However, Vaishnavas do not condemn such people. Indirectly, the endeavors for material improvement help the Vaishnavas' spiritual progress to some extent. Yes, they can give us motor cars, airplanes, trains, roads, easy access to shops and various goods. It just complicates things, basically. If things were left very simply, we'd still get along. But still, they can help. So indirectly, like a microphone, like this camera and everything. It's serving a purpose for the devotees. So it's helpful to some extent. However, Vaishnavas do not condemn such people. Now, we don't walk around crashing the heads of the materialists. Indirectly, the endeavors for material improvement help the Vaishnava's spiritual progress to some extent. The material knowledge of those who pursue material advancement is insignificant, and you may call it prakriti vigyan, material science. There is certainly no objection to that. It is foolish to quarrel over names. Digambar. Well, if there were no advancement of material knowledge, how could you Vaishnavas conveniently satisfy your material needs and be free to engage in bhajan? You should also make some endeavor for material advancement. So he's challenging. It's a good challenge. Advaita. People work in different ways according to their respective inclinations, but Ishvara is the supreme controller of all, and he awards each person the appropriate results of his action. So it's Ishvara who is the controller. Ishvara is providing. It's not by my effort. Like we see in this world sometimes, a man might have 3 jobs trying to make money, but he's always poor. Another man practically does nothing and yet he becomes wealthy. How can you say it's the effort of the man? It's not, it's the effort of our various karmas that Krishna will provide or not. Where are we up to? Where does inclination come from? Digambar, where does inclination come from? It's good. Digambar's asking questions now. Advaita, inclination develops from deep-rooted impressions in the heart acquired through previous activities, sanskars. So much is dependent on sanskars. The more extensively one is involved with matter, the more expert he will be in material knowledge and the crafts originating from such knowledge. Yes, the more immersed you get in matter, the more you get implicated in it. The articles that such people manufacture may help the Vaishnavas to serve Krishna, but there is no need for the Vaishnava to labor for them separately. For example, carpenters earn their livelihood by producing singasans. The Grihastha Vaishnavas use as platforms where they place the deity. Bees are inclined to gather honey, which devotees accept for the service of the deity. It is not that all the jivas in the world endeavor for spiritual advancement. They are engaged in different types of work, impelled by their respective natures. So not everyone is the same. Not everyone has the same inclination for spiritual life. And we're not really trying to propagate that. The Vaishnavas are trying to preach in every unique circumstance, just to try and include the mystical ingredient of transcendence within every circumstance. If the jiva wakes up his consciousness to the reality of the Lord in some way, directly or indirectly, then he's moving ahead, then he's making some advancement. To pray. Human beings have different types of tendencies, some high and some low. Those with lower natures are engaged in varieties of work, impelled by their lower tendencies. The menial labor they perform assists other types of work which are prompted by higher natures. I'll read that again. The menial labor they perform assists other types of work which are prompted by higher natures. What's that mean? The menial labor they perform, these are men of low nature, assists other types of work which are prompted by higher natures. Yes, the carpenter, he's performing a lower activity of making the shingasan, but it's the grihasta who's using that with a higher nature, so he's making use of that. The wheel of this universe turns by the virtue of this division of work. Everyone who is under the jurisdiction of matter works according to his material propensity and thereby assists the Vaishnavas in their spiritual development. The whole collection of activities is supportive of the Vaishnavas' lifestyle and the Vaishnavas' progress. We have a room to live in. It was built by laborers. We have a heater. It was provided by the government electrical board, whatever. We have water in the pump. We have a generator to lift the water up to the pump, etc. So we have these material things. So we can't condemn material science. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining like this. We have to honor where it's honored. And we utilize it like this, but it's not the purpose in life just to spend our time engaged in trying to facilitate, our material existence, which is the focus of the kamakand or the kami. Everything they're doing is trying to facilitate their own material pleasure. And the devotee is using that to his own advantage, like living in a room, like using cloth that has been spun and woven, etc.
What's necessary?
Huh?
The necessity.
Taking whatever is necessary. So we can't condemn the Karmakanda path, right? You can't point your finger and say, no, no. We have to accept that people with a lower tendency, a lower aspiration will do like that. And that's fine. That's what the Varnashram system is about. So we should acknowledge that in its place, but don't give it credence and say, this is the purpose of life. Digambar is saying, this is the most wonderful thing. This is the difference. The wheel of this universe turns by the virtue of this division of work. Everyone is under the jurisdiction of matter. Everyone who is under the jurisdiction of matter works according to his material propensity and thereby assists the Vaishnavas in their spiritual development. Such materialists are not aware that their activities are helping the Vaishnavas because they are bewildered by the potency of Sri Vishnu's Maya. Consequently, the entire world serves the Vaishnavas, but unknowingly. Unknowingly. Very clear, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing. We are reading this, I'm aware, we are reading this very quickly. You know, we are reading it, but I've actually just read this a few months ago on a stream also. And it seems completely different to what I read a few months ago because things have moved forward since then. And if we read it again in a few months' time, we'll understand it more deeply. So it's an evolution of consciousness to appreciate all the truths that are here. But at least we get something, at least some impression. We appreciate how clear is Bhaktivinoda Thakur expressing these topics of don't put material science on the front burner and think that that is to be glorified beyond the glorification of the practice of the Vaishnavas. The practice of the Vaishnavas is paramount, always, just like the Brahmins traditionally were the top of the society because they were teachers, they were priests, not the Shudras. Digambar, what is Vishnu Maya? Advaita, this is the third question Digambar has asked. This is quite significant because obviously Digambar hasn't come across someone who's so erudite in presenting the philosophy as Advaita. Advaita is presenting it in a very beautiful way. And Digambar has had to hold in his tirade of trying to propagate, Shakti Tattva above everything else. Digambar, what is this Vishnu Maya? Advaita, in the Chandi Mahatmya of the Markandeya Purana, 8140, Vishnu Maya is described. Mahamaya Hare Shakti Yaya Samohitam Jagat. The potency of Bhagavan by which the entire world is bewildered is known as Mahamaya. This massive Mahamaya. The whole world is bewildered. Digambar. Who is the goddess I know as Mother Nistarini? Advaita. She is Sri Hari's external potency, known as Vishnu Maya, as Durgama. We should know, for example, why Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going into such detail here. This place where we live, in Bengal, in this region of Navadvip, is the biggest place of worship in the whole world for Durga Puja. On Durga Puja, there are probably 3 or 4 times the number of people that come for Gopanim. There are millions and millions and millions of people in this whole area that come to worship Durga Ma. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to bring this philosophy out very clearly and deeply. Who is this Durga Ma?
Do they have some big temple of Durga?
Huh?
Do they have some big temple?
They always build
They think so.
every single year out of bamboo these incredible palaces. They're so expert at it. They build them all over the place. They in this whole region there were probably about 20 or 30 new palaces suddenly go up on an empty lot of ground, and it's like a huge, and it looks real. It's all got lights and you can walk in, and it's all compartmentalized, and then you see this huge deity of Durga Ma, really beautifully carved.
Made out of what?
Huh?
Made out of what?
Clay and straw,
Yeah, I saw.
and then they throw them into the Jalangi, or they throw them into the Ganga afterwards. They put them up and they erect them, and people from all over India come here, especially to celebrate Durga Puja. Huge. And all night long, techno music and lots of drinking. It's absolutely horrendous. You have to bring your earplugs. That's in September.
Okay, we won't be here.
Good. It's good, good, good. She is Sri Hari's external potency known as Vishnu Maya. Digambar opened his book on Tantra and said, look, it states in Tantra Shastra that my divine mother is consciousness personified. She possesses full will and she is beyond the three qualities of material nature. Yet she is the support of those three qualities. Your Vishnu Maya is not free from the influence of the modes of nature. So how can you equate your Vishnu Maya with my mother? This type of fanaticism on the part of the Vaishnavas really irritates me. You Vaishnavas have blind faith. He's saying this because he's frustrated, because Advaita has actually run him into a corner, and he's grappling with words to try and walk out of the corner. But this Vaishnava philosophy has completely disarmed him. So he's resorting to practically slandering, taking a personal slight at Advaita now. My brother Digambar, Advaita tries to calm him down. Please don't be angry. You have come to see me after such a long time, and I want to satisfy you. Is it a slight to speak of Vishnu Maya? Bhagavan Vishnu is the embodiment of supreme consciousness, and he is the one supreme controller of all. Everything that exists is his potency. Potency is not an independent object, vastu, but rather the functional power inherent within an object. Within an object is that inherent, um, we can say, Shakti, that is going, it's manifesting from Krishna. Krishna is the source, is the origin. Everything that exists is his potency. His potency is the Shakti, it's his potency. Potency is not an independent object. Yes, Shakti isn't independent of the Lord. I asked the other day, have you ever experienced light without a source? Is there such a thing as light that doesn't have an object for where it's coming from? All light has an object from where it's coming from. If it's the electric light, it's the bulb. If it's the daylight, it's the sun. If it's the evening light, it's the candle. If it's the firelight, it's the fire. There's always an object to the potency. The potency is the Shakti. And the object is Bhagavan. And this is what he's missed out, this whole ingredient all the way through. Because he ultimately, let me tell you, he's envious of that object of Krishna. This is the heart of it. He's ultimately envious of that power. And he is the one supreme. Where is it? Is it a slight to speak of Vishnu Maya? Bhagavan Vishnu is the embodiment of supreme consciousness, and he is the one supreme control of all. Everything that exists is his potency. Potency is not an independent object, vastu, but rather the functional power inherent within an object. It's like the sun is the object and the power within it is the light, right? The light is shining. But rather the functional power inherent within an object, vastu dharma. To say that Shakti potency is the root of everything is thoroughly opposed to tattva, metaphysical truth. Metaphysical truth. Shakti cannot exist independent of the object from which it originates. That's what we're saying. Shakti can't exist separately. There has to be Shaktiman. There has to be the possessor of that potency. We must first accept the existence of an object that possesses full spiritual consciousness. Otherwise, accepting Shakti by itself is like dreaming of a flower in the sky, because he's saying his Nistarini is that Shakti and the Shaktiman. That's what he's proposing, that his Shakti is the beginning and the end of everything. There's nothing else beyond Shakti. This is their limitation. Do you understand this point?
Yeah.
It's so simple, really, but it seems difficult to sort of like appreciate sometimes. But really and truly, it's really simple. When the energy and the energetic, Krishna is the energetic, the Shaktiman, and everything is coming from him. You can't say that Shakti herself is producing anything. I mean, the simple example is just the sun and the light, the energy from the sun. It's coming from the sun. The sun is Krishna, and it's the energy. And Swarup Shakti, as I said before, creates everything in existence. It's all coming from Krishna. Doesn't do anything. My Gurudev used to say many times, Krishna is like Nirvishesh Brahm. He just like performs pastimes in Vrindavan. And it's his Shakti who has so much affection for him that performs all of this service of the entire creation, creating the spiritual worlds, coming through Baladev, Sankarshan, the Chatu Vyuha, and then Lord Narayan, and then the three Purusha avatars, Karanadakshay Vishnu, Gaudavadakshay Vishnu, Shira. All this ultimately is manifesting from Swarup Shakti. But the origin of this is Krishna. And Radharani has her feet, her head sold, her heart sold to his desires. And what is remarkable, just to spin it all around again, is that in the beginning today, we were saying how it's Krishna who's putting his head, at Radhika's feet. You see, Jaydev Goswami understood what is the nature of Shakti and Shaktiman, and how can Shaktiman put his head at the lotus feet of Shakti? That's what's inconceivable. You understand? It's astounding. It's astonishing. We'll stop in a minute. We can't just stop it there. I'll just read a bit more. The commentary on Vedanta states, Shakti, Shaktimatayo abade. There is no difference between the potency and the possessor of potency, yet there's no difference ultimately. This means that Shakti is not a separate object. The Supreme Person, who is the master of all potencies, is the one truly abiding substance. That's Krishna. Shakti is the quality or inherent function that is subordinate to his will, like the sun and the sunlight. The sunlight is subordinate ultimately. It's like when you have a flame, the flame is completely independent, right? But the heat coming from the flame is totally dependent on the flame, right? If in some case, of course, you can't separate the two. When you have a flame, you have to have heat. Nevertheless, analyze it. The heat is dependent on the flame, but the flame is not dependent on the heat, is it? The flame will have its light whether the heat's there or not, but the heat cannot be there without the candlelight. So it's not independent. It's not an independent substance, the Shakti. Shakti is the quality or inherent function that is subordinate to his will. You have said that Shakti is the embodiment of consciousness, that it possesses will, and that it is beyond the influence of the three qualities of material nature. This is correct, but only in as far as Shakti operates fully under the support of a pure conscious entity. Yes, what he's saying is correct. This is what I said before. In the Shakti Tattva that Digambar is describing, there are threads of truth. But because they're not connecting with the ultimate truth, it's all become out of sync. And why isn't it connecting with the ultimate truth? Because ultimately, the proponent of that doesn't want to accept it. Therefore, that proponent is envious ultimately. He's envious of that ultimate reality. That's the truth. This is correct, but only in as far as Shakti operates fully under the support of a pure conscious entity and is thus considered identical with that powerful entity. Yes, identical. The heat and the flame are identical. I mean, they're not identical, but at the same time, you can't have one without the other, right? Desire and consciousness depend on the Supreme Being. Desire cannot exist in Shakti. Rather, Shakti acts in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Being. This is the point. Desire. Krishna desires and his Shakti fulfills. We have an expression in English, man proposes and Krishna fulfills. It's only Krishna's potency that can fulfill that. But here it's the other way around. Krishna is having the desire, and his Shakti is fulfilling his desire. Radharani lives only to fulfill the desires of Krishna. In every single, she goes into Man because she knows it pleases Krishna. She goes into Man because she knows Krishna has to do some seva to break that Man. Krishna loves service to that. He likes to do that service. So she goes into Man. Krishna has to roll his sleeves up, and he has to really sometimes work very hard to break Radharani's Man. And Krishna loves that opportunity for seva. He knows he has to do that. No one else can go into Man except Radhika. Chandrabali can't go into Man because she knows that Krishna will probably just forget about her. Whereas Radhika knows that Krishna cannot forget her. Therefore, Radhika can go into Man for 1 or 2 days if necessary. And she knows that Krishna has to come and break it. So that's how much power she has over Krishna. Desire cannot exist in Shakti. Rather, Shakti acts in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Being. You have the power to move, and when you desire to move, that power will act. To say the power is moving is merely a figure of speech. It actually means that the person who possesses that power is moving. Okay, we'll stop here. But this is a fascinating topic. And when we start again on Monday, we'll start from the top of page 208 and just reiterate back through here. And we'll see how much we've actually understood. Because when I speak it again, we'll understand it even more. It's not something that we should crack our minds out to understand. We should start to appreciate these principal. The principal truth is that Krishna is the supreme and Radhika is the Shakti. This is the principal teaching. And Digambar hasn't appreciated that. He hasn't realized that. So we'll meet again on Monday. And I think we've only got a few pages left of this chapter. Yes, just a few pages. Okay, so we'll meet again on Monday. So I hope the devotees appreciated this discussion of Shakti and Shaktiman today and the distinction. And we can't just say that Shakti is the all in all, as the Shaktas do. They come to this area and they just worship Durga Ma, like she is the supreme without her counterpart of Krishna. She is the counterpart of Krishna. So Jai Vedama ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. I'm going to repeat this paragraph which we read last time. It's very dense. We could repeat it 100 times just to go deeper on it. The commentary of Vedanta states, Shakti, Shakti Matayor Abed. There is no difference between the potency and the possessor of the potency. Just like the heat and the sun. There's really no difference. The light and the candle. When we say, oh, the candle's over there, we're talking about the flame of the candle, the heat of the candle, and the light of the candle. We're talking about all three, except we can separate them to appreciate them more closely. There is no difference between the potency and the possessor of potency. This means that Shakti is not a separate object. The Supreme Person, who is the master of all potencies, is the one truly abiding substance. That's Avastu. Shakti is the quality or inherent function that is subordinate to his will. You have said that Shakti is the embodiment of consciousness, that it possesses will, and that it is beyond the influence of the three qualities of material time. This is correct, but only insofar as Shakti operates fully under the support of a pure conscious entity and is thus considered identical with the powerful entity. You can't separate Shakti and say she is the supreme without acknowledging the origin or the source of Shakti. It's like not acknowledging the sun, just talking about the sun's rays. Desire, oh, where did it go? This is correct. Only is thus considered identical with that powerful entity. Desire and consciousness depend on the supreme being. Desire cannot exist in Shakti. Shakti, like Srimati Radhika, is the embodiment of Shakti. She has no desire separately than to please Krishna. That's the end of her desire. Everything is to please Krishna that she does. Krishna is the origin of her activity, is just to please Krishna. What is his pleasure? Desire cannot exist in Shakti. Rather, Shakti acts in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Being. You have the power to move, and when you desire to move, that power will act. Yes, you understand that example. It's beautiful. We have the power to move, but until the desire comes to move, the desire is coming from Krishna. That desire is coming from the Shaktiman. So we have the ability to move. We have that Shakti, but we can't move until we have the desire to do it. You understand? Because we are like the jiva is like its own universe in a sense, the microcosm of everything in the macrocosm. The macrocosm is the great, and the microcosm is the tiny. You have the power to move, and when you desire to move, that power will act. You say the power is moving. No, the power can't move. It's merely a figure of speech. It actually means that the person who possesses that power is moving. Beautiful. Bhagavan, actually, it's not very often that we would be speaking these things publicly in a class or something like that. It's only when we read them now in a study mood that we can appreciate the depths of this Siddhanta. Like normally, we would just be speaking about different various topics. We wouldn't be analyzing in such a scholarly way. But because we have this opportunity to study this Jaiva Dharma, then it's bringing out all its very uh, these Siddhantic points are clearly being presented for us. Bhagavan has only one Shakti, which is manifest in different forms. When it functions in a spiritual capacity, it is known as Chit Shakti, and when it operates in a material capacity, it is known as Maya, or Jad Shakti, dull energy. It is stated in the Shvetashvarta Upanishad 6:8, Prasya Shakti Vividaiva Suryate. The Vedas say that Bhagavan's divine Shakti is full of variety. Actually, all of Krishna's gopis, billions of gopis, they're all his Shaktis. They're all emanations from him. They're all his Shaktis come to serve him in his Leela. And like in Dwarka, his 108 queens, 16,108. They're all his Shaktis. They're all his energies. The Shakti that supports the three modes of material nature, Sattva, Raja, and Tama, is known as Jada Shakti, and its functions are to create and destroy the universe. The Puranas and the Tantra refer to it as Vishnu Maya, Mahamaya, Maya, and so on. Different names for the same energy. There are many allegorical descriptions of her activities. For example, it is said that she is the mother of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and that she slew the demonic brothers Shumba and Nishumbha. The living entity remains under the control of this Shakti as long as he is engrossed in material enjoyment. When the jiva is endowed with pure knowledge, he becomes aware of his own swarup and this awareness enables him to transcend Maya Shakti and attain the liberated status. He then comes under the control of Chit Shakti and obtains spiritual happiness. We read this last time, I think. Same thing. We read it again. It's no problem. Digambar, are you not under the control of some power? Advaita, yes, we are Jiva Shakti. We have abandoned the Maya Shakti and come under the protection of Chit Shakti. Digambar, then you are also a Shakta. Advaita, yes, the Vaishnavas are true Shaktas. We are under the control of Shrimati Radhika, who is the embodiment of Chit Shakti. It is only under her shelter that we render service to Krishna. So who is more of a Shakta than a Vaishnava, than the Vaishnavas? We do not see any difference between the Vaishnavas and the real Shaktas. Those who are only attached to Maya Shakti without taking shelter of Chit Shakti may be called Shaktas, but they are not Vaishnavas. They are only materialists. In the Narad Pancharatna, Sri Durga Devi explains, Tava Viksaya Vakshashi Radhaham Rase Vrindavane Vane. In the forest known as Vrindavan, I am your internal Shakti, Sri Radhika, who adorns your chest in the rasa dance. From this statement of Durga Devi, it is clear that there is only one Shakti and not two. That Shakti is Radhika when she manifests as the internal potency, and she is Durga when she is manifest as the external potency. In the condition of freedom from contact with the material modes of nature, Vishnu Maya is the Chit Shakti. That same Vishnu Maya is the Jad Shakti when it is endowed with the modes of nature. You see these complete distinctions. Chit Shakti and then Durga Ma and Vishnu Maya is covering, and Jad Shakti. You understand? Something. Just hearing it is beginning our journey of appreciation. Digambar, you said that you are Jiva Shakti. What is that? Advaita, Bhagavan has said in Bhagavad Gita 7.4.6, Bhumya apanola vyahu vaya karma manu buddhiya eva cha ahankara itiyam me bina prakritiya astada aparayam itastva anyam prakritim vidi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yeyadam daryate jagat etad yonini bhutani sarve nityani nitya uparahaya uparaya aham kritnasya jagata prabhava pralasya palayas tata. My inferior or material prakriti is comprised of the 8 components: earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intelligence, and ego. That makes 8. These 8 elements are under the control of Jad Maya, dull energy. There is, however, another prakriti which is superior to this Jad prakriti and which consists of the jivas. By it, this material world is perceived or seen. The jivas have the particle of the internal Shakti, Chit Shakti, within them. It's their consciousness, but it's covered over. When we access that higher realm of consciousness through our practices, through our careful listening, through our careful chanting, etc., then we can clear the fog of illusion and come back to our real, this Antaranga Shakti. This Antaranga Shakti is actually our nature, but we are acting as if we were Bahiranga Shakti, that's lower, because we're marginal, we're Tatashta, we oscillate between the two. Digambar, do you know the glory of Bhagavad Gita? This Shastra is the essence of the instructions of all the Shastras. and it resolves all conflicts between the various philosophical ideologies. It establishes that the category of entities known as Jiva Tattva is fundamentally different from the material world and is one of Ishvara's potencies. That's what we just said. It's fundamentally different. I am fundamentally different from this material world. I just said we're considered insane when we realize that we're not connected with this material world, when it's not part of our consciousnesses, when we're not covered by this Mahamaya, then we are considered by the conditioned souls as to be insane. Because for them it's insanity to actually walk away from this material consciousness. Learned authorities refer to this tattva as the Tatashta Shakti. This Shakti is superior to the external potency and inferior to the internal potency. Therefore, the Jivas are in a unique Shakti of Krishna. We are very unique. This Tatashta Shakti is like in the spiritual world, there are two types of spiritual beings: those who serve in Goloka Vrindavan, in their spiritual, in that spiritual lila Madhurya pastimes, and those who serve in Vaikunthas, two different jivas altogether. And this is the third type of jiva that is manifesting from this Tatashta Shakti. But our essential nature is Sat Chit Ananda. Digambar, Kalidas, have you read the Bhagavad Gita? Advaita, yes, I read it quite some time ago. Digambar, what is the nature of its philosophical teachings? Advaita, my brother Digambar, people praise molasses only as long as they have not tasted sugar candy. In other words, the teachings are so beautiful. Digambar, my brother, this is simply blind faith on your part. Everyone has tremendous regard for the Devi Bhagavat and the Devi Gita. You Vaishnavas are the only people who cannot even bear to hear the names of these two books. Advaita, have you read the Devi Gita? Digambar, no. Why should I lie? I was going to copy these two books, but I shall have not, but still I have not been able to do so. Advaita, how can you say whether a book is good or bad when you have not even read it? Is my faith or your is it my faith or yours that is blind? Very good. Digambar, brother, I've been somewhat afraid of you ever since childhood. You were always very talkative. You see, he's been defeated here, so he's squirming. But now that you have become a Vaishnava, you are even more assertive in expressing your views. Whatever I say, you cut to pieces. Advaita, I am certainly a worthless fool, but I can see that there is no Shuddha Dharma apart from Vaishnava Dharma. You are always inimical to the Vaishnavas, and that is why you could not even recognize the path to your own auspiciousness. Digambar, a little angry. Do you claim that I cannot see the path of my own auspiciousness when I have performed so much sadhan and bhajan? Have I been cutting grass all this time to feed my horse? Just look at this Tantra Sangraha that I have written. Do you think it was a joke to produce a book like this? You arrogantly flaunt your Vaishnavism and ridicule modern science and civilization. What am I to do about this? Come, let us go to a civilized assembly and see who will be judged right, you or me. Advaitadas wanted to be free from Digambar's undesirable association as soon as possible, for he felt that this meeting was completely non-productive. Sometimes when you're speaking with someone, you just know. It's like if you're speaking to a fanatical Christian, you don't even begin to try to convince them of something beyond there because they just class you as demon. Any fanatic, someone is worth speaking to if they're a little flexible, if they're open, if they're not devotees, if you're trying to.
Once I heard that if somebody is sentimental, you cannot convince them.
Generally not.
Yeah.
Generally not.
You can,
But even if they're sentimental, you can appeal to their sentimental values, but not if they're religiously, you know,
religiously sentimental.
yeah, well, you can't even go there. Not even worth the while, the trouble. Just break your head. Well, brother, he said, what use will your material science and civilization be at the time of death? Digambar, Kalidas, you are really a strange fellow. Will anything remain after death? As long as you are alive, you should try to acquire fame among civilized men and enjoy the five pleasures: wine, meat, fish, wealth, and women. At the time of death, Mother Nistarini will arrange for you to go wherever you are meant to go. Death is certain, so why are you subjecting yourself to so much tribulation at present? Where will you be when the five elements of this body merge with the five great elements of material nature? There are so many men, basically, of this thought, of this stamp in the world, and they are the ones who are controlling the world, trying to encourage everyone into the path of being like God. As soon as you start to be like the enjoyer, that means you start to take Krishna's place. I've said before, Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati says, when the spirit of enjoyment comes, know that humility is far away. As soon as you desire to enjoy something, that's putting you in Krishna's position. Bhaktaram yagita pasham. Krishna is the enjoyer of all yagya and sacrifice. This world is Maya. So this is still Digambar going on. This world is Maya, Yoga Maya, and Mahamaya. No, this is Advaita, sorry. Let me get this straight. So that was Digambar was speaking, and now this is Digambar again. This world is Maya, Yoga Maya, and Mahamaya. It is she who can award you happiness now and liberation after death. Nothing exists except Shakti. You have come from Shakti, and you will return to Shakti in the end. Just serve Shakti and witness the power of Shakti in science. Try to increase your spiritual power through yoga discipline. In the end, you will see that there is nothing other than this imperceptible potency. Where did you get this far-fetched tale about a conscious supreme God? Your belief in such a story is making you suffer now, and I can't fathom what destination you will attain in the next life that will be superior to ours. What is the need for a personal God? Just serve Shakti, and when you merge into that Shakti, you will remain there eternally. Perfect, perfect Mayavad. Perfect. Advaita, my brother, you have become infatuated with this material Shakti. If there is an all-knowing Bhagavan, then what will happen to you after death? What is happiness? Happiness is peace of mind. I have given up all material pleasure, and found happiness in inner peace. If there is anything more to be achieved after death, I will attain that as well. You are not satisfied. The more you try to enjoy, the more your thirst for material pleasure expands. You do not even know what happiness is. You are simply drifting in the current of sensuality and calling out pleasure, pleasure. But one day you will fall into an ocean of sorrow. Amazing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes these states of consciousness. I mean, they're just going on and on, shouting pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. You look at any news channel, you look at any word from the material world, and all they're pumping is pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Where can you have pleasure? And what is the opposite of the pleasure? Distress, distress, war, famine, hate, fight, fight, fight. These two sides. This is the material world. No sanity there. Digambar, whatever will be my fate will be. But why have you abandoned the association of cultured men? Advaita, I have not renounced the association of cultured men. Rather, that is precisely what I have obtained. I am trying to give up the association of degenerate men. Digambar, how do you define degenerate association? Advaita, please hear without becoming angry. I will tell you Srimad Bhagavatam says 4:30-33. Yadvat te maya sprishta brahma brahma iha karmabi tavat bhavat prasanganam sanga syan no bhave bhave. Hari Bhakti Vilas 10:12. 292. O Bhagavan, we pray that as long as we are bewildered by your illusory potency and are wandering in material existence under the influence of our karmic activities, we may have the association of your premi bhaktas birth after birth. Only association with premi bhaktas is auspicious for us. It is said in the Hari Bhakti Vilas 10:294, Asada bi saha sangas tu na kartavya kadachane yasmat sarvata hani syad ada patash chas jayate. One should never associate with people who are immersed in non-reality, for by such association one is deprived of all worthwhile objects of attainment and falls down to a degraded position. Yes, if someone is following Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha, for example, if that is their goal and intention, we're going to become degraded by that type of association. The Katyani Samhita states, Varam Hutvaha Jvala Panjaranta Vyavashtiti Na Suri Chinta Vimukha Jane Sambasa Vaishyavam. Quoted Hari Bhakti Vilas 10:295. Even if I should die in a blazing fire or be trapped for all time in a cage, I still do not want the company of persons averse to thinking of Krishna. It's so horrible to be with people who are against Krishna. You know, everything is closed to the exhilaration of the blissful consciousness when it's all blocked off. And that's what polluted atheists have, or Mayavadis have. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:31, 33, and 34, Satyam Socham Daya Monam Buddhya Hri Sri Yasak Shama Samo Dhamma Bhagaschita Yat Sangad Yati Sangshayam Tvesh Ashanteshu Mudeshu Kanditatmash Asadushu Sangam Na Kuryach Chokyeshu Yosit Krida Mrigeshu Cha. Quoted from Hari Bhaktivilas 10, 297 to 298. If one associates with those who are devoid of virtue, one's good qualities such as truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, restraint of speech, intelligence, shyness, wealth, fame, forgiveness, control of the senses, control of the mind, and fortune completely fade away. Therefore, one should never associate with disgraceful people who are agitated by desires for sense enjoyment, who are foolish, who are engrossed in the bodily conception of life, and who are playthings in the hands of women. It is said in the Garuda Purana 231 to 17, Antargato pi Vedanam sarva shastrata vedyapi yana sarveshvare bhaktas tam vidyat puru saramam. Quoted from Bhakti Harivilas again, 10.303. One may have studied all the Vedas and be acquainted with the meaning of all the Shastras, but if he is not a devotee of Sri Hari, he should be understood as the lowest of men. Srimad Bhagavatam 6.118 states, Prayaschitani Krinani Narayana Paranmukam Na Nispuranti Rajendra Surya Kumbham Iva Paga. Quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilas 10.305. O king, just as the water of many rivers cannot purify a wine pot, similarly a person who is averse to Sri Narayan cannot become purified by all the different types of atonement, even if they are executed perfectly again and again. So this is from the beginning of the Ajamil Charita, beginning of the 6th canto, because Parikshit Maharaj has been inquiring how he's just heard the pastimes of the hellish planets described in the 5th canto. So now this is the beginning of the 6th canto. And he's asking, what is that process where one can be purified completely? And first of all, Shukadev is talking about this prayaschita, these atonement rituals that he should go through, but they don't purify completely. So then Shukadev realizes the sincerity of Parikshit Maharaj, and then he explains about the glories of the holy name and gives the beautiful pastime of Ajamil, how at the time of death he's just calling out of his son, and by that Narayana, those 4 syllables, then 4 Vishnudutas immediately appear and chase away the 3 Yamadutas and have a wonderful conversation. And Ajamil is hearing this conversation. And this is by the power of Nam Abbas. So the power of Nam is unlimited. And even Yamaraj, because the Yamadutas, they go to complain to Yamaraj after they've been thwarted in trying to capture Ajamil's soul. And Yamaraj becomes very happy to hear that they've met the Vishnudutas. And he says this beautiful verse, Etavan eva lokeshmin pumsam dharma paroshmita bhakti yoge bhagavati tannama granadi bi. He says this verse at the very end of the 3rd chapter of the Ajamil Charit, that just by chanting this holy name is enough to purify all of humanity. It's just so powerful. We just simply initially have to have faith in these words. And then by our actualizing them, our actually practicing that, then we will come to realize the potency and the efficacy of the chanting. It's by the practice. Don't be satisfied with just hearing the words. Taste it. It's like trying to describe to somebody a bottle of honey, but not actually opening the lid and tasting it. We have to taste this Harinam. And there's a verse I'll read to you from the Chaitanya Bhagavat in regards to this. Just to confirm this point. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he's saying directly, this is from chapter 15 of the Madhya Lila. He says, he's talking about Jagai and Madai. This is just about appreciating the potency of the name and how to actually get that realization of the name. It's by spending the time to chant 1 or 2 lakhs a day. It's described that Jagai and Madai, they would chant 2 lakh Nam a day after their chastisement, after their liberation from their position of Jagai and Madai. So it's describing here about Jagai and Madai. Every day in the early morning, they, that's Jagai and Madai, would take bath in the Ganges and then sit in a solitary place and chant 200,000 names of Krishna. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he comments here, it is said that Sri Haridas Thakur would daily chant 300,000 names of Krishna. Jagai and Madai also daily chanted 200,000 names. Sri Chaitanya Dev does not accept anything offered by those who do not daily chant 100,000 names. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he's saying this. The followers of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya must daily chant a minimum of 100,000 names. That's a lakh every day, minimum. Otherwise, Lord Krishna will not accept their offerings and they will face obstacles in obtaining the Lord's remnants. If you can't make your offering pure through your own purity of chanting 100,000 names, it takes about between 5 and 6, perhaps 7 hours. It takes a calculated schedule of rising early is the secret. This is the key. Let me share with you. This is the key, is rising early in the morning. If we don't rise early in the morning, just forget it altogether. And what is the key to rising early in the morning? Going to bed early at night. What happens after 7:30, 8 o'clock every night? The mind is tired, it's been active all day, if it's eaten and so on. There's nothing else especially pressing spiritually at that time to do. The modes of nature are coming from passion into ignorance. Actually, around about 8 o'clock, not before 9 especially, we should be resting. And if we can rise in the early morning hours, the Brahma Muhurta hour is the only mode of goodness in the whole day, starting at about 3:30, before 3:30. After the Brahma Muhurta hour, the mode of passion kicks in. Then after the mode of passion, again comes ignorance in the afternoon. Then after ignorance, again in the evening time, will come the mode of passion. And then after the evening comes the mode of ignorance in the sleeping time. So the only mode of goodness in the whole day, in the 24 hours of the day, is those few hours of the Brahma Muhurta hour. And the devotees take great relish in rising early and relishing the dawns, which are so beautiful. It's described that Lord Brahma, he dropped the dawn for the demigods to sport with. The evening time is taken up with the mode of passion. And that's described in the third canto, that tantalizing female who allured the demons away from trying to sexually abuse Lord Brahma. She became a fascinating woman, and that woman takes the form of twilight. And it's described that is the mood of passion. It's like every evening, 6 or 7 o'clock, all the drinking houses open, the nightclubs are open, everyone's roaring for it. They're going into that, heavy enjoyment mood of passion. Whereas what do the devotees do at that time of the day? That time, Shiva Jayo Jaya Gaura Chandre. That's what we sing. We sing about the glories of Mahaprabhu at that time of day. And then, if after the Gaura Arati is concluded, minimal activity and then rest. Rest for a purpose so that we can rise and utilize the early morning hours of the day to the maximum. And then if we do this and we get regularly habituated to it, it's got to become into a habit. We've got to form these good habits. And if we perform these good habits for many, 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 many years, it takes that time to actually cultivate it easily, because it shouldn't be an imposition for the body. It's no good rising early if you're going to crash out at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. If you go to sleep after you've woken up and been chanting, it's amazing. I've done many times. Dropped off to sleep and you lose all the potency of your chanting. You just lose it. If you chant right the way through until at least 8 or 9 o'clock, and then if you need to take a nap or something at that time when the sun has risen, that's okay. But if you try to sleep before the sun rises, you're just going to lose all the effect of your chanting. So it takes practice. It takes diet also. What you eat at night, etc., is going to be digesting inside. All of these intelligent ideas wake up in your mind when you start to chant more. How to optimize this human body and this human birth. It's a science, and it's not a difficult one. We've just got to get familiar with it all. So chanting is the principle. And Ajamil in this verse 6.1.18 exemplifies that. So it is said in the Skanda Purana, Hanti nindati vai dveshti vaishnavam nabinandati kuryate yati na harsham darshane patanani sat. Quoted Hari Bhakti Vilas 10.3.12. The 6 causes of downfall are to beat a Vaishnava, to slander him, to bear malice against him, to fail to welcome or please him, to display anger towards him, and to not feel pleasure upon seeing him. Take these seriously. We can't afford any Vaishnava aparad. We can't afford it. Digambar. A person can never attain auspiciousness through these types of immoral association. What possible benefit can one gain by living in a society composed of such men? So Advaita very kindly has just thrown the whole book of Shastra at Digambar. Digambar is not a stupid man. Materially, he's not stupid. So he's thrown all these different verses to make an impression to him. Digambar. Well now, what a distinguished gentleman I have come to speak with. You should certainly stay amidst the pure Vaishnavas. I am going to my own house. Advaita felt that his exchange with Digambar was drawing to a close, that it would be appropriate to conclude on a pleasant note. In a courteous mood, he said, "You are my childhood friend. I know you must return home, but I don't want you to go just yet. You have come all this way, so please stay for a while, take some prasad, and then you may go." Digambar, Kalidas, you know very well that I follow a strict diet. I only eat havisya, and I had a meal just before coming here. Havisya is like a khichdi. However, it was a pleasure to see you. I will come again if I find the time. I cannot stay overnight because I have some duties to perform according to the system given to me by my guru. Brother, I must take my leave for today. Adwaita, very well. I shall see you off to the boat. Let us go. Digambar, no, no. Carry on with your own business. I have some men with me. Digambar then went away, singing a song about goddess Kali, and Adwaita Das was able to chant Sri Nam in his kutia without further obstruction. So it's important to note the end of their conversation is on a cordial note. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we've described, gives so many teachings within the philosophy presentations that he's making. So this exchange, which could have got out of hand if the individuals had been too passionate. We see that Digambar was quite passionate, began actually insulting Adwaita Babaji. But Adwaita was very composed the whole time, you know, and this is a lesson for us in Kali Yuga to maintain our equilibrium, even in the um, unfortunate circumstances of having to meet someone like this, someone from our past, someone who materially has been our friend or our brother or our relative, etc., in the past, how to deal with them. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives us many layers of divine instructions. These are all helpful building blocks in our progress of pure bhakti, Shuddha bhakti. Just like he said in this first verse of the Falshruti, Dharma projita kaitavatra parama nirmatsharana. There's no envy in this presentation. It's only pure transcendental, um, blissful instructions, divine instructions. So we should take them to heart. So we've gone through it quite quickly, but at least we've all gone through it. And in the future, I'm sure all of us will read it again and again. And each time we read it, we will go deeper and deeper into the meanings that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving. For sure, 100%. The meanings will reveal themselves deeper and deeper. So tomorrow we'll begin on chapter 10. So Jai Vedama ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.